Daddy don't come back soon, it'll be time to start eating my pets. Number 95, Beasts of the Southern Wild. Welcome to Long Play Video. Welcome to Long Play Video. As always, we're here going through my top 100 films of all time and having a chat about the films, going away and watching them and seeing if they're as good as I remember them, or for Kevin, maybe a little bit different. Yeah. Before we jump into today's, I wanted to take a moment. Podcast number 6. We've covered 5 films. To kind of go through them and see how we're doing. So of course we had The Artist at number 100, Juliet Naked at 99, Limitless at 98, Be Kind Rewind at 97, and then Free Jack at 96. Any thoughts or anything that brings them all together from your point of view?
Well, I mean, from Limitless onwards, obviously it's leather jackets, but it's an eclectic mix, isn't it? And there has been some. I remember, obviously, when we were talking about The Artist, that was something I knew about, and then this was the first one that we did, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. And actually, then I really enjoyed it. I thought this is something completely different. Then you made me watch probably one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life, so that brought it all back down to ground again. And then there was the high of Limitless. It's like I literally took the jug after Juliet Naked, and then Limitless brought me back. And then we've had some interesting ones with Be Calm, Rewind, and Free Jack. I think it's a good mix as well, right? Like it's we're really not breaking the back of your rom-com obsession, but we're gonna start getting into it, I think, which will be good. What about you? Any thoughts on them?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, as you say, that it is an eclectic bunch. And that's kind of when I was putting the list together, I did want sort of everything, all the different types of film kind of represented and stuff. So I think it's about kind of getting that mix where the list, they are my 100 favorite movies, but at the same time, it's like I want to have representation from like the different things that I like. But then also I have a very eclectic taste in movies, which sort of means that you never really know what you're going to get with anything on the list.
It is a bag of revels. Sometimes you get a lovely Malteser. Sometimes you get the awful coffee. I mean, it's who knows what's going to come up.
And that's perfect for a podcast where obviously you want a certain genre and a type of fan that will listen to all of them. So this will just have to be people who know us and think that I'm weird and just are curious as to how weird the films are going to get.
I must say, actually, I watched a Ethan Hawke film at the weekend, which after I saw it come up on my list, and I thought, oh yeah, actually, having watched Juliet Naked, I remembered, he was actually pretty good in that, and I thought, yeah, this could be good. So then I watched an Ethan Hawke movie. So there you go. Bit of extra money to Ethan Hawke. He can thank you personally.
That review from Amazon where they were like, "Oh, this Ethan Hawke kid is going to do well."
He could be onto something here. Yeah.
Well, and talking of going through and them all being very different. I think that is definitely going to then continue into number 95, which is Beasts of the Southern Wild. So it came out in 2012, stars Quvenzhané Wallis, Dwight Henry, and is directed by Ben Zeitlin. Is also written by Ben Zeitlin. It at the box office, it did $21 million on a budget of $1.8 million. So it did 11 times its money. Kevin, what do you know about this film?
Well, this is a little beauty for me because I remember the name just about, and I think that's where my knowledge ends. I don't know really anything about this film. I kind of remember it being out, but I can't remember anything about it. And then I'm probably my memory's starting to cross over with the Gruffalo, and I'm thinking that can't be it. So
there's probably it's probably closer actually than
I thought. Okay, so. There you go. Well, I love the Gruffalo, so there we go. It's going to be great. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't really remember too much about it, but that's pretty good. I mean, 1.8 million budget tells me there was probably, quite maybe that obviously not huge special effects, probably more of a character-based movie. So that's good. But the fact they did 21 means obviously it must be pretty good. So that's always putting it in good stand. But what about you then? What do you remember about the film, or do you remember that when you first watched it?
Yeah, so I watched it. I watched it sort of in mid 2015. It was a film that I'd always wanted to see, but I just kind of never got round to it.
Yeah,
And then I watched it about 5 months before my daughter was born, and I would say that that kind of heavily influences
yeah,
the watch, because the lead character is a 7 year old. I think that's supposed to. I think Hush Puppy is supposed to be about seven,
yeah,
and is just, yeah, like a sort of force of nature, and is what the entire film is based around. And yeah, I kind of, yeah, I saw my daughter in the lead character, and it's a child growing up, kind of having to learn resilience, but also kind of being curious, and kind of seeing,
yeah.
I think, the magic in the world. That's just kind
Okay.
of what I wanted. That's what I wanted for her then. That's kind of what I want for her now, to be able to deal with, like, yeah, what life throws up, but also to, yeah, to be curious and to sort of see things in a different way. So
Yeah,
definitely heavily influenced by that.
yeah,
But also, yeah, just it's a phenomenal movie. It really is. It's not perfect. It's not a
yeah. Did it
perfect
win
movie.
any? Did it win any Oscars? Do you know, or is it more like one of those just really good films that everyone sort of watches, but it would never kind of win an Oscar?
No, so it was nominated, actually nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and the lead actress,
Yeah, okay.
Quinta Wallace, for Best Actress. So and she when she made this, she was 6 years old, and
Oh
when she was
wow.
nominated for an Oscar, she was 9 years old. So she's still the youngest ever nominee for an Oscar. Um,
Wow.
but actually lost out in the Oscar race for screenplay, for best film, and for director by Argo, Ben
Oh
Affleck's
yeah, Ben Affleck. Yeah.
drama. So yeah,
Ah.
you seen Argo?
I have seen Argo, yes. Yeah. I can't remember a huge amount about it, but that might just be my memory rather than the actual quality of the film.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's sort of, yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre choice for Oscar winner. I mean,
yeah,
Quinta lost to Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook for Best Actress,
yeah,
which I like Jennifer
yeah,
Lawrence. I think she's a really
yeah.
good actress, but that is not her strongest performance. And this is like, yeah, this is just an amazing performance by a 6 year old who carries the
Yeah.
entire film, and is
Yeah.
this in pretty much in every scene. I think that's, yeah, an interesting decision, as always, by the Academy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to say that because obviously, like I said, I didn't really know much about this film, if anything. And now that you said a 6-year-old, immediately I thought, oh no, this is going to be horrific because generally they're not that good. I mean, I'm probably mainly thinking of the first few Harry Potter films, which were terrible, and then they got a bit older and actually started to learn to act. But that's very impressive if she got nominated for an Oscar, so she must be pretty good. So that's intriguing me. That's making me yeah, intrigued about watching it. So it should be good to see.
Yeah, so as it's kind of comparing the Oscars to then, it won the Camera d'Or at Sundance, which is like for the sort of first time
Mm,
filmmaker, and it
yeah,
actually came out of the Sundance Writers Lab. So they sort of do a competition where, yeah, people kind of go in, and they help them develop scripts and stuff. So, Reservoir Dogs went through that. So
yeah,
it did really well on the festival, kind of scene, because it is more of an independent movie. It is,
yeah,
yeah, it is sort of much more about the way they did, and actually both stars. It's the same with Dwight Henry, who plays sort of the father.
yeah.
Both of them, it's their first time acting.
Oh
For a
wow.
lot of the crew, actually, it was the first time that they were out of film school, and
Wow.
it's the sort of first, yeah, feature film that the director has had as well. So that kind of lends, yeah, I think, just sort of, it's
Yeah.
remarkable what they've created. And as always with like the films that I like, what they do is they make a universe, and within that universe is completely consistent, and they kind of make that world, that universe, and have a story at the center of it. And that's what I really like. It is a step aside from like real life. It is based in the future sort of somewhat, but more from a kind of a climate sort of position. So it is a climate film, and it sort of is talking about what happens when the climate kind of continues going the way that it's going. So from that point of view, it's also an interesting one because it's a lot of metaphor. It's not a straight narrative film. So I think we've already mentioned Tree of Life. So if you have Tree of Life as like the real outlier of like, this is just trying to be a poem with some visuals and a voiceover, this is several steps back from that, but it's definitely still the same genre. So don't go in thinking that this is going to be a dinosaur movie, as the person thought for Tree of Life, but be like a completely like narrative, real life movie. It is.
Well, I mean, if it's got the Gruffalo in it, it's clearly real life, so we don't need to worry about that.
It doesn't have the Gruffalo, but funnily enough, it may well have some characters that sort of stand in for the Gruffalo and are a little bit similar. So
this is an interesting one. So it's interesting listening to you describe it, and then it sounds like obviously it did well. It's won awards at Cannes, and obviously, you said obviously it was nominated for Oscars. It's a 6-year-old, so an incredible performance to carry that film then. And then but then I'm like, but then it's a number 95 for Andy. So I'm like, there's something in between here. I'm like, there's something that I'm missing, and we'll probably work this out when I see it. But
I remember, sort of towards the end of like the nominal sort of second act, so sort of just past halfway, I remember that it loses its way a little bit, and then it kind of and then it comes back. It is. I mean, I was watching it at the time, so maybe it was just because of that, but it is very emotional. It does have an emotional kind of gut punch, or like 2 or 3 in actual fact. And it is, the view of the world from a child. So when you read the reviews afterwards, you'll sort of see people are like, well, that's unrealistic, or that wouldn't happen, and you're just like, no, it's the view from her. And that's, I haven't watched it again since then, but I know that I will watch it with my daughter, and I kind of quite look forward to watching it. And to a certain extent, kind of watching it now is kind of thinking about when do we watch it? Is it actually a film that she should watch now, or is it one that we should wait until she's kind of 11 or 12? Because I do think that she'll have that connection with it. This is almost one of the films that I would watch with her, to watch a film that isn't just a straight narrative, to kind of show film doesn't just have to be telling one story straightforward. Like, this is metaphor, this is this is symbolism. There is another level to this. I did see in some of the reviews, people are like, well, if you don't like this film, you just don't get it, which I think is always just like one of the funniest sort of damning things that you can have, because if you don't have the same taste as me, you're clearly just not intelligent. I think is always a fun one.
Which is crazy, right? Because I think that it can be very subjective, films, can't it? And as we said, like with last week's, Free Jack, it was a good bad film, and ultimately, you like different things, and as you said, as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, is that it can depend on where you were at, where you watched it, what stage of life you're in. And they can have certain elements of nostalgia and different things that attach to it. You might really like this film because of those things, as you said, because your daughter was just coming into the world at that point, and so it's not just this is a good film or a bad film, but obviously in the modern world that we live in, where you're an anonymous troll, you want whatever you want whenever you want, don't you? So exactly. A bit strange, but so I see. So it's 93 minutes, so that's not too bad. I just, started having a bit of a panic attack when you started saying that the second scene, it starts dragging on. So I'm glad it's 93 minutes. I'm happy with that.
And I would say for one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing, like for that 90 minutes, like just don't, I mean, I want to say like suspend disbelief, but that's not what it is. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, you've got to commit to it. You've got to allow
Yeah.
yourself
Okay.
to feel
Yeah.
the emotions that you're getting from Hush Puppy, who's the main character, and like live in her world and kind of
Yeah.
accept that world for what it is. I would say like
Yeah.
this is one that I would go and watch again if it was at the cinema. I do think like
Yeah.
try and
Okay.
watch it with like the bigger screen that you've got. I think the sound as well
Yeah.
and the music is like super important as well, because the director actually kind of composed a lot of the music as well, as he comes from a musical
Oh wow.
family. And the music is very much kind of part of it, and helps kind of build that emotion as well. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one to kind of bear in mind.
I think that's the thing for me is like really for me, I like movies and TV. I mean, well, TV maybe is slightly different, but movies it is escapism, right? Like it's you want to be. It's almost like it's a visual book. Like someone's
Yeah,
taking you on a journey of what they've pulled together, and you're going on that journey. You may not like it at the end of it, but yeah, you want to go into it. I mean, like you said, so many people would say like, oh, well, it's unrealistic and this and that, and then they'll probably do a review on Infinity War, saying it's the best film ever, and you're like, well, that none of that is even remotely believable, but it's it's a great new world that's been created, and you're like, yeah, you suspend belief and jump into that world and enjoy the spectacle that's been created. So I would hope
yeah.
that, yeah, like you said, people would watch it based on immersing yourself in the experience and not just sitting there thinking, well, this is stupid and unrealistic. It's like, well, yeah, it may well be, but it's a film. That's the whole point.
That is literally the
Yeah.
whole point. Yeah, and I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
because this is from 2012, so
Yeah.
Avengers was the biggest movie in the world. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's
Okay.
sort of in comparison. I mean, again, like Avengers, not even taking into account the amount that they spent on advertising, did probably like
Yeah.
it did about 7 times profit on the money that they spent, and this did 11. So
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
very different numbers, but you can kind of see that
Yeah.
like yeah, at the same time, from a creativity point of view, and the fact, that obviously the fact that it got the Oscar nominations really would have helped it.
Yeah.
But it's just yeah, having now watched actually a few of the interviews with the actress, it's
Yeah.
clear that like people just thought that she was being her, because obviously she's a 6-year-old, so how would she actually be
Yeah.
able to kind of do that performance?
Oh
But
wow.
actually, like having watched the interviews, yeah, she's completely different, and yeah, she kind of talks about like, yeah, it's just like the character is different from me in some ways, but it may be the same in others, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Wow.
such a startling performance.
That's impressive that she's created a character at the age of 6. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I'm able to do that now at the ripe old age of 7. Yeah, that is impressive. It does sound like you've set this up nicely. Like in your prelude, I'm like, this sounds good. I feel like I'm going to enjoy this film. So I'm looking forward to actually watching it and seeing what and seeing how we come out the other
And
side.
whether or not
Yeah.
it stands out
Yeah.
well, because I do know there is a quote from the film that I know, because it's on one of my mixtapes where I put movie quotes
Yeah.
in front of songs, and it's from Hush Puppy, and she says the whole universe depends on everything fitting together just right. If one tiny piece breaks, then the whole universe gets busted. And that's
Yeah.
like that's what the film is about, that interconnection, is about how she
Yeah.
sees the world and how it kind of all fits together. So
This
yeah.
is great. I feel like we're starting to begin our own little cult now. This is perfect. This is coming together nicely.
Well, it's gonna be intriguing to see yeah, what you think once you watched it.
Yeah, exactly. Am I going to be indoctrinated into this? If it's terrible, I'll tell you now. I will be watching the Gruffalo immediately afterwards just to make myself feel better. So yeah, is there anything that you're specifically looking forward to see, or yeah, anything that you're worried about as well?
Just seeing the character again,
Yeah,
and see yeah, and kind of yeah, spending time with her, and yeah, seeing a lot of the visuals. I think looking forward to the music again, because I don't think I picked up as much from that as maybe it were
yeah,
the kind of the first time. When I did watch it, my wife was very pregnant, so we probably had to pause a few times for
yeah,
for various things. So yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to seeing the character, seeing the performance again. And yeah, I mean, as I say, nothing that I'm worried about. There's some harsh scenes that I remember, but that, that, yeah, it's for me, it is about that, it is about the fact that it can be a harsh world. And do you shield someone from that, or do you bring them up to be able to deal with it? I think resonates just as much with me now as a father as I sort of thought it would before my daughter was born. So
if I do watch it and I hate it, I'll try not to be too harsh.
I mean, it's no Juliet naked. I think we can establish that right from the start. I mean, as I'm sure, most people with kids, I have to watch the film first just to see if there's any like scary bits. I mean, we had a 5-minute screaming fit last night because there was a spider on her bed that she saw, and so I then had to take her bed to bits basically to find the spider. Which I did, and I found it and got rid of it, and then put her to bed, and she still wasn't happy. And my wife was like, "Tell me the truth, did you actually find the spider?" And I was like, "Yes, I did, so it's fine." But yeah, good. I have to watch the film again, probably one more time, just to make sure there's nothing too much in there. But I think it's also like, because there is like a childlike innocence, which is obviously a very cheesy way to say it. But there is like an innocence, and because it's from her point of view, I think it would almost work more for a young child who kind of appreciates that and kind of can think of it, well, this is actually from my point of view as well, and really sort of identify with that world point of view. So I don't have time to watch it and then watch it with her. I think that would be pushing it. But we'll see whether it would be one, or if there's something that I don't remember and I'm like, oh no, she has to be like 18 until we watch it.
I was just thinking that, like, do you know what the guidance is? Is it like PG or?
No, it was it was a 12A. When it came out. I wonder what is the parental guidance on it. I mean, but the kids go somewhere that is basically a brothel, but like at the same time there's no nudity or anything. There is quite a lot of dead animals because that kind of feeds into it.
Oh wow.
And the language, I remember, isn't amazing. Because of it's set up for the way that the people are kind of the people are. So, but my daughter knows 3 swear words. She very proudly tells me.
Great.
All the time. So
every night.
So we're navigating that minefield at the moment.
It's just language. Remember, Andy, they're just words.
That is actually what I'm telling her. Like, that it's language, and that there's sometimes you can use them and other times you cannot, and you have to use the right language for the right setting. So,
and these are the exact times when you should be using these words.
So don't swear at school and make us look bad.
Don't do that, but as much as Yeah, cool. Okay, no, well, this sounds good. I mean, like, the dead animals has worried me a little bit. I've got some trauma from watching Watership Down when I was younger, so but I hope there's not too many dead animals. So we'll see. I might be the one crying. So
I would infinitely play this for my daughter, for my 8-year-old daughter, before I would show her Watership Down, because I don't think she would sleep for a week after watching that. So so awesome. Let's put the video in, get the comfy spot on the sofa, and and we'll go for it.
Thought-provoking and super sad, I think, was my overarching thoughts. It's
sad, but not uplifting at the very end, kind of, sort of, maybe.
I think the way it's all pulled together, and the music plays quite a crucial part. I think the music's always quite sort of lilting, and it is more on the sort of sad vibe. And it was funny actually. I watched a bit of it with subtitles, and it came on when the music came on. It would say "sad music is playing." Oh, okay, good. Just confirming that for me.
Why bother writing the music? I mean, it's sad.
Yeah,
It's just says sad music. You're like, okay, I can
sad
imagine
music.
something.
So yeah, no, I mean it is an interesting one, and we'll get onto this I think in the latter half of the pod. But yeah, I think there could be some interesting things if it was done now. But yeah, just I don't know. It was. I mean, it is quite of all the ones we've done so far. I think this is more on the sadder side.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, this is on the sadder side because Free Jack, he
oh
he
yeah,
actually comes back rather
yeah.
than rather than it being Anthony Hopkins.
And obviously you've got such a giant high from Free Jack to anything that you watch after that is gonna bring you down. One thing I did think, sorry, yeah, before, because I want to get your thoughts on this. I watched it and I was like, whoa, I really hope you haven't watched it with Poppy because it's pretty dark and there's a lot of swearing. So I was like, yeah, let's hope not. And some questionable scenes.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I said to my wife about watching it, and she was like, I think she needs to be like 10 years
Yeah.
older. So she clearly had more of a
Yeah.
memory into it. But she was following it. So yeah, I didn't watch it with her. We did have
Yeah.
a conversation about it,
Okay.
about what the film is, and I was explaining. She loves kind of having films explained to her. She was walking to gymnastics over the course of like 6 months. My wife was telling her what happens in Lord of the Rings, and she
Oh
loved
wow.
it. But then like they'd come home, and I felt a bit like Stephen Colbert, where they would come home and have like 4 questions
Yeah.
about Lord of the Rings lore that I had to answer. Um,
Yeah, wow.
and
That's like a personal audiobook.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And I had to sort of some of the things that I'm fairly sure happened in the wrong order, but I had to stop myself from correcting them. So yeah, we did talk about it, and then I was trying not to reveal the end. And my wife was like, "Well, don't tell her what happens because you'll watch it at some stage." And then even coming up for this podcast, we had a few tears because I wasn't going to walk her to school, and I was a bit like, I'm just about to go and talk about a young girl who has to
Yeah.
survive on her
Uh,
own, and you can't even get ready for school and walk with your mum to school. So yeah, I think it would be a bit jarring now for her, bless her.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be a little bit too young for it now. It would be like a life lesson that possibly isn't needed. It's like, well, this is what this girl has done, and this is what she did at this age, so you can learn as well.
And
But yeah,
she hates that whenever there's someone playing the piano and we're like, so you could be as good as that. She hates it. She's just like
oh wow, yeah,
it makes her feel bad that she can't do
yeah,
it now, and she thinks that we're like, oh, why aren't you as good as that 40-year-old
yeah,
grand
yeah,
concert pianist?
yeah,
Which is obviously not what we're saying most of the time. She could put a bit
yeah,
more effort into her piano. But
yeah.
I think what it does super super well, I think, is
Mm,
just the point of view from Hush Puppy, from the child. Like
yeah,
it does kind of compare all of the things like from her point of view, which
mm,
I think just sort of on this watch definitely paying more attention to the things that she does that are very kind of childlike. She's
yeah,
playing Floor is Lava in her house,
yeah,
while she's kind of waiting for her dad to come back, hiding in the box because if the
yeah,
fire can't see her, then it kind of won't get her. And
yeah,
then just kind of how the whole thing kind of ties in, that she kind of feels responsible because she hit her dad, and so then she like feels responsible for everything that happens after that, because like if sometimes things break and you can't put them back together, like
yeah,
that I think is just it just does it really really well. And you have the voiceover, which is a little bit cheating, but it just does
mm,
it so well that you get
yeah,
the view of this of the world, which is like not sort of in the future, or not our world, but you get that view of the world from her.
yeah.
And that I think is what sort of gives it so much heart, and just makes it sad, but also like just such an interesting movie.
Yeah, I thought there was a couple of things. Now you saying that, I was thinking I made a couple of notes of, like you said, there's those things that you actually do and that happen when you're a child, and it really relays that it's from the child's view. And a couple of things when this opened up. The first one was using a blowtorch for breakfast. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, clearly that's what a child would want to do. If you had the
What
option, why would you not?
and what I love about that is the precaution of the
Yeah,
American football helmet in the
yeah,
freezer,
mm,
because obviously that will come back.
yeah,
And then she's just like, okay, I get the helmet out of the freezer because that's cold. I turn the gas
yeah,
on and then I use a blowtorch to light
yeah,
it, which is just such a like, yeah, that's the thing. It's so funny that it's like from a child's point of view, she's like, well, I've got my cold
yeah,
helmet on, so that'll be
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. If I get hot, the flames come towards me. Well, this cold thing is going to sort me out, so it's fine. There, so I thought that was good. And then the other one, like you said, when she's in the box, and I was thinking that point where she's craving attention, and she's obviously got the food on the stove, and
Yeah.
then she turns the food right up, and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely something where like a kid would do, not understanding the repercussions that you're about to burn the whole house down.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely something a kid would do.
Yeah, because she wants to go and yeah, she wants to go and stay with her dad. I mean, I think that
Mm,
the bit as well where she's like drawing someone in bed with her is just like
mm,
so heartbreaking. That just it sort of shows like her loneliness and that
yeah,
she basically wants a hug. And
yeah,
just like yeah, to sort of draw someone and then sort of sit there and look at them is just
yeah,
yeah, it's just awesome. And also like not to explain that, not to like the whole performance is like obviously she's looking for love from her dad. She's getting kind of
yeah,
tough love because he feels like yeah she needs to be able to survive, right? And that's
yeah.
his job, as he says. So I think they portray that really well because they don't kind of dumb it down and they kind of just show it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's like you're saying. That's he's thinking. It always brings you back thinking about like what would it have been like in sort of Neanderthal times or something like that, where you never know what could be around the corner, and so you have to deal with death a lot more, and you have to be
Yeah,
more prepared for it. And like you said, he's thinking, I'm got an issue, I've got a problem, I'm more than likely going to die, so I need to make sure that you're mentally prepared for that, and then also physically prepared to look after yourself as well, even though you're just a young child. It's like, well, this is the world, unfortunately, that we're currently in. I'm going to die, and you need to make sure that you don't.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like you said, I mean, there's some things that happen in it where I'm like, oh, I don't think they'd put that in there now. Like when he slaps with the face, I was like, oh, yeah, I think that might not be allowed in current terms, but
Yeah, yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, it's a harsh world,
mm,
isn't it? I do then think
mm,
I do like they have that, and yeah, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't hit kids. You
yeah,
shouldn't live in a post-apocalyptic world
yeah, yeah,
in flooding. But I do think they
yeah,
then kind of they play with that a little bit when she does go and live with him, and then he's
yeah,
like, well, if I want to come over there and smack you in the face, that's against the rules. So that's a plus for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
he is like setting that there are rules and that
yeah,
he can't just
yeah,
come over there and smack her because
yeah,
like they are going to share it and stuff. And then
yeah,
she does go and lie down with him, but then the damn government turns up and
yeah.
separates them. So
Classic. Yeah, yeah, it was funny, isn't it? There was a lot of interesting stuff that I took out there as well. One of the things I was thinking in this kind of current world, I was like, wow, if it's definitely going to be around floods and things like that, then there's going to be a big amount of seafood. And I was starting to get a little bit panicked and worried. I was like, I'm not really massively into seafood. So do I need to now start actually eating more seafood to prepare myself for this post-apocalyptic world?
I think you should. I think
Mm.
you need to beast a crab
Yeah.
and be able to eat it down. I'm just
Yeah.
I think I mean I think we're both done in anything like this, but
There was one other thing that I noticed. It doesn't matter what world you live in, whether it's apocalyptic, now, current, anything in the past, humans always find a way to make some kind of moonshine or alcohol. That's always in abundance and it's always around for everyone to be used. I was like, what is it about our sort of culture with like adding alcohol into every scenario? It's
No
weird.
one predicts the phones are going to be a big thing in the future, but everyone's like,
Mm.
I'm fairly sure alcohol's still gonna
Yeah,
exist in
exactly.
some form.
Yeah, very bizarre. But I think, like you said, yeah, there are a lot of good things. And one of the, things I thought is the characterization was very good. And with the dad, they don't really hold back on that. I think people would probably think, wow, that feels like a really harsh character, which is, obviously what it's deliberately designed as.
Yeah.
And then obviously her character is really good as well. And as you said, the acting was very, very good from her. So I thought they were really good things from my point of view, was the acting and then just the portrayal of the characters, how they'd set them up and then how they were then delivered. I thought they were both obviously the main two characters were really good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and both like first time performances, and that's just
Yeah.
neither professional actors. Yeah, and I do think,
Yeah.
I mean, with the dad, I think it's really interesting because obviously, yeah, he is harsh, and I think kind of,
Yeah.
but as it goes on, I think they do enough to kind of show you that, yeah, he is just trying to prepare her. And funnily enough, one of the films
Yeah.
that Letterbox compares it to is The Road, which I think is actually a good comparison.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it is like, well, what can I do to prepare her?
Yeah.
And there's that great bit when he's just about to go and try and blow up the levee, and he's like, if something happens, then like this other guy is dad, and they just all look at each other and they're just like, yeah, that's not going to work out.
Yeah. That guy. He was the guy that, which I loved. It's the best hangover cure in the world. He walked straight out of his house into the river.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You're cured. Hangover gone.
Just the way that he's like, oh, I must have passed out. And he didn't even know that the floods had come.
Yeah, straight out into it. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was better than I thought. Yeah, was there anything like bad that you thought about it, or anything like that sort of side?
Yeah, I think the bit that I was sort of talking about when I sort of said it slows down. I think the bit with the mom and the boat is like that. I think that's where it sort of it gets the most fantastical, right? Because they find the boat. I mean, they're just swimming for like her and her little gang. They're just kind of swimming, and then the boat comes and it's just like, well, the boat takes you where you need to go, like no matter what. And then it's kind of, yeah, that's sort of her mom, or that's like that they do the dust thing, which I think is really cool. But for me, that bit again, it felt like they kind of needed a little bit between like the breakout and the dad dying, and the Aurochs coming. And I was wondering, like, how did you feel? Because in like, I think in everything that I've read and listened to, the Aurochs are the thing that people don't agree with. Do you think that the metaphor kind of works with them kind of coming? Do you think it sort of dominates too much, or?
No, I think they slide it in nicely in across the film. They're just small scenes across the film, so you start getting an understanding of what they represent and what they mean. And I think for me that was portrayed quite well in the film. And I think obviously then you have like the piece at the end. I think the way that they are, designed in the film as well, like they look like they're obviously huge, massive, these giant creatures. So it's very clear they're very, very big. But it's not like it's like something silly like a dinosaur or anything like that. So I think the way that that's designed as well is for you just to understand, it's just this big sort of creature that's come in. And I thought it was handled pretty well. I mean, maybe we'd sort of spoken about it beforehand, and obviously as we previously mentioned, I'm a big fan of the Gruffalo, so those things combined maybe just sort of made it okay for me. But you think that's what a lot of people have said is their real gripe with the movie?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I definitely took that it's about the climate change and having to face it, and having a strong heart, and obviously like when she actually faces them and the dad can see, it's like that kind of, okay, she's got a strong heart, she can kind of face them, she's not going to run, and she's going to kind of face whatever's coming, which is for me is the metaphor. But when you kind of read it, then for the people that maybe didn't bother looking into the metaphor or sort of thinking about it, they're like, well, what are these big pigs? But actually I didn't think that it, funnily enough, I remembered them being in it more. I remember there sort of being more cut scenes of them coming, but actually there was only like 2 or 3. So I think so I think it worked. It worked
and I think
well.
it's interspersed throughout the film quite nicely. It's not like there's 3 scenes back to back. It's like a little bit near the front. There's obviously a bit near the middle, and there are very short scenes. And then obviously the slightly longer scene at the end. So I'd say, I didn't think there was any issues with that really. No, I thought it was the only thing that I thought about it from a bad point of view, as it were, was it's just, yeah, as all of these films, as we said, with the post-apocalyptic scenarios, is always that the future is always an absolute nightmare, and there's never any good. It's not like, oh, we've discovered, I don't know, like some kind of food, and it means we can all live forever, and there's enough, or we've discovered another planet. It's never that. It's always aliens, or death or whatever. So
Well,
yeah, it's just
Star
one of those
Trek's the only
things.
one. I think Star Trek's the
Yeah, that's true.
utopia, because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have the energy, and so there's like
yeah,
Star
yeah,
Trek
that's
is the
true.
one sort of future universe where actually everything, if we could just stop going to war with people, then it'd be quite sweet. But all the people who are actually on the planets do okay. I think
Yeah.
that there was slightly more sort of about the government and not letting them
Mm.
live there anymore, and kind of ejecting them from the homes, and then the like forced medicine and stuff. There was more of that than I remembered as well. Like, I think they
Yeah.
sort of make a point of, that's the thing. He wants to die in his home, and he wants to live in his home because he doesn't have a place like in the rest of the.
Yeah.
So is it up to the government to kind of move
Yeah.
them on for their own good? Whenever anyone's doing anything for someone's own good, it's always a bit
Yeah.
questionable, isn't it? So yeah, there was a bit more about that, but again, I thought they balanced it quite well.
Yeah.
And think that there was overly. I mean, when she says, when people get sick here, they plug them into the wall.
Yeah.
Again, like
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
child's point of view, I think that's just like it's a great line, and it's a great observation. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I think you're right. I thought the same. I thought like it was that, how do people feel about, forcing people to potentially have help or medicine? And obviously, that links in with the COVID pandemic that we've just gone through.
mm,
It's an interesting one, isn't it? On an individual basis, you might argue, oh, well, actually, it should be up to the individual. But then when there's a global pandemic, is it like, oh, do we need to force people more? And it's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? I think you could go back and forth all day. But I did feel like in this movie, he clearly just he's happy where he is, and they're like, no, 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 we're going to make you live longer, and he's like, no, I don't want to. I've had enough of this. It's terrible. I'm out of here. I'm running out of
but
moonshine.
but then he does blow up the levee, which I think is probably,
Yeah,
presumably, that water went somewhere and wasn't particularly good for where the people who lived
yeah,
wherever they went. So
yeah.
I think there is always that. Um, did you have the description for the aliens in 30 Words
Oh
or
yeah,
Less? What did you come up with?
yeah. So I was thinking like of a really good one for this. Like, what was it? What would be the best description for this? So I went with God is thawing the earth to release land krakens. That's that's my summary. I was going to
Wow.
add more, and I was like, that's enough.
That's going to entice the aliens in to watch it. They're going to have to know
Yeah,
what a kraken is, but
yeah. I was like, how good does that sound? I was like, this does sound really good, actually. I was thinking about watching it again. Yeah.
I put that on the DVD cover.
What
Uh,
about you?
I mean, I just thought I'd be true to Hush Puppy, and
Yeah.
just once there was a Hush Puppy, and she lived with her daddy in the bathtub. That's
Yeah, there
uh,
you
that's
go.
what she wanted the future scientists to know. So
Yeah.
the aliens can know it as well, and I think
Yeah.
that's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
And surely life lessons galore. But what did you focus
Oh,
on?
well, there was one big one really that stood out for me. As you said, it was,
Eat more
it's a
fish.
lot of that was my life lesson. Yeah. Start liking seafood. I was like, there's so many big poignant moments in this film, and I was like, but really, the main thing is you need to be ready for seafood. So that's my major life lesson that I took from it. What about you?
I mean, yeah, there's so many lines that are great. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it's yeah. Overarching is you've got to live while you can, and
yeah,
I think it's great where they say, we have more holidays, we have more celebrations than anywhere else. They're just,
yeah,
yeah, you can't fault them for getting drunk and trying to live, because they know that it's going to be short lived.
yeah,
So yeah, they live a life, don't they? And yeah, I think that's there is always that with climate and with everything, kind of looking forward, as you say, like, yeah, you can
yeah,
you can worry about it, and you can kind of not live but at the same time, you've got to live, you've got to celebrate, you've got to do these things because there might be a giant pig coming to get you.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, in a sort of westernized society, we're very disconnected from death, I would say now. Like there's a huge fear, like you always worry that it's coming once you get to a certain age, and it's not like something that you just understand and live with. It's very much feared and not embraced. And I think, like you said, in this scenario, it's like, well, you never know what could happen. Obviously, they had the massive floods. Some of them got out okay. Then obviously he's got like some illness that he doesn't know where he's got that from. She potentially might be left by herself, so she might be struggling as well. And it's almost like there's death around every potential corner. And so it's just something that they live with and understand. Whereas I think, nowadays, I don't think that's something that I would say, certainly myself, that I sort of live with and understand. So what sort of what about changing it to a different sort of genre? What do you think about that?
I mean, to change the film, I mean, it would be great if she had more superpowers and just make it into a superpower movie, and then everything's okay. I think that would lessen the impact of it somewhat, but maybe make more money, unfortunately, which is the real
I was thinking more like two versions I had. One where it's like a Matrix style, and it's just like a simulation, and so they're like, oh yeah, that went really badly. Let's try again and see what happens if we do something different with climate. So I thought that could be quite interesting. This could be like the outcome of potential like AI scenarios, or Hush Puppy just becomes sort of like proper like Predator style. So like she gets like camouflaged up, and she just starts taking people out left, right, and center.
That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
So which character did you feel the most? And also with this, would you have left, or would you have stayed if you were?
If I was watching it in the cinema?
No. If you were.
Oh, you mean in the bathtub?
If you were in their position, if you like, you can stay, and you're probably not gonna survive that long, or you can go and just be basically like shifted from one government tent to another. You're always you're not gonna have any freedom, and that's, I think, where they sort of say, oh, well, she says it doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a giant, what did she say? It looks like a giant fishbowl without any water. And I think that's, again, like, just really accurate. Like, okay, well, you're on benefits, but you can't go anywhere. You have to stay where you are. They're going to bus you off to somewhere else. Or do you stay like in your home? But it's going to be really, really rough.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think, like, obviously in the current world that we live in, we're lucky that we're okay. And so it's hard to then sort of put yourself into that mindset of thinking, well, actually, what if everything wasn't okay? And what if every day you really did have to cherish it? Because you would have a potentially small, finite amount of days left. I think in that scenario, you would then think, well, I'd stay in the bathtub. And I'm, a big fan of baths. So, it works for me.
With all that seafood.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think if you ask me honestly now, I'd probably be like, oh, I'd go down the medicine route, and then just get myself better, and then just see how I could work myself out. But the reality is probably that you can't get out. Like you said, you're sort of stuck in the system, and then you just think, God, I could have, even though I'm living longer, are these days better? And I guess that's a good balance of things that we operate with now, isn't it? Like, you could eat in a certain way and do certain things to make yourself healthier and live longer and things like that. But there's, I think, this balance as well where you're like, well, actually, I quite like to, eat that donut every other week or whatever. So, you want to enjoy some things as well. So it's not just about, getting everything into a perfect scenario. You want to make sure that while you've got your one go, you actually want to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
So what about you? Which sort of character, or like you? Would you stay in the bathtub, or would you jump out of the water?
Yeah, I think it's so difficult. I think he obviously tries to put her on the bus, which again is another like just heartbreaking scene. And he wants her to survive. Like, do you have to then go and? But there's surviving and there's living, and I think it's. I think you do anything to survive, and I think just the human condition would do anything to survive. And then I think some people will do anything to still live, and they kind of separate out that living and surviving. And I think that is, I think, a big question that actually kind of comes up in a couple of movies, I think, on the list, and something that I think is really interesting.
Like Free Jack.
Like Free Jack, he doesn't just want to live with the guy who knows who he is. He just ditches him as soon as he's spoken to him.
He wants to be everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love I do love the line by the sort of the magical boat guy as well, where he's talking about being cohesive, and she says, I'd like to be cohesive as well. And that like really stuck with me. I was like, I'd really love to be cohesive. That just sounds like like it all fits together and it's all good. And that was something I noted. Like I heard this time, and I didn't notice the first time round. And I was like, cohesive is a good aim, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because obviously, as a child as well, it's like whether she really knows what this means. It might just be like, oh, this word sounds good, but actually. It is poignant that actually, from an adult perspective, like, oh, actually, that would be quite handy just to be, in one place, moving along the journey, wherever that might take you, rather than maybe sometimes all over the place, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my daughter said that she might be religious when she grows up because she really likes saying the word God. And that was going to be, and then she countered with, but she does also really like saying serendipitous, which is another word that I told her. So she was like, well, so I'm not sure whether that means I'm going to be religious or not. I was like, well, maybe something will come up and it will be serendipitous.
So, you'll create your own. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, the John Cusack movie with the same name isn't on the list. You'll be glad to hear, even with my penchant for rom-coms, it didn't make it.
That's devastating, because I'm a big fan of John Cusack actors, to put that out there. So that would have probably liked that, but I'm sure there'll be some other ones on there.
Yeah, he features.
Were there any other favourite lines that you came across that you didn't remember, or that
I mean, there's so many great lines she has. I think it's a great script, and I think she gets some really great line. I love the line, I hope you die, and when you do, I'll go to your grave and eat birthday cake all by myself. Like that's such an insult. I think I'm going to start using that as an insult more. And then some of the more profound ones, for the animals who didn't have a dad to put them in the boat, the end of the world already happened. And then if it wasn't for giant snowballs and the ice age, I wouldn't even be Hush Puppy, I'd be breakfast.
That was quite a good one. I like that. There were some good lines in it, I must admit. It was
anything that you think wouldn't sort of stand up to scrutiny today. I mean, obviously the
slapping the kid in the face would be something that would be if it got remade now, I don't think it'd be included.
Yeah, it is shocking, and I remember it sort of being shocking then, especially because it is the only time. It's not like there's the violence against kids is like part and parcel of it. It is the only time when there's actual violence, and it is very. I thought it was interesting that a lot of the conversations they have, that power is kind of equated with male. Like she's the man, she'll be king of the bathtub. Like a lot of that, which I'm not sure. Boss man. I'm not sure whether that was of the time or whether that's a bit of a that's kind of of the people. I think maybe now people are more aware that power it doesn't have to be male, and there is power in the female. That was the only thing that kind of I thought was interesting.
All right, so if you could swap out one thing, and if it was remade today, like actor, music, or technology, what was your thoughts on this one?
I mean, it may have been my Blu-ray edition, but the Aurochs were a little bit ropey when they are seen next to Hush Puppy. So I think a little bit of magic on the CGI would have probably worked there.
I think you're right. I watched it as well, and I streamed it, and they still looked pretty ropey. So I think I don't think it was your DVD copy. I put that the seas dry up and there are only vegetables and mammals to eat, so you don't have to worry about this seafood dilemma. We move straight past it.
So it sounds like
Obviously, yeah,
wish fulfillment on your part. So you never
yeah.
have to see seafood again. Do you not? You don't do any seafood? Is there? Do you have to move somewhere where there's a particular type of seafood that you like in abundance in case the end of the world happens?
Yeah, no, I mean I do eat some seafood. I'm not like I don't eat, it's not that I don't eat any. Like but
Fair
I
enough.
did think it was quite funny that they did have they kind of bring in sort of like chicken nuggets at the end via sort of gator nuggets. And I was like, oh, okay, so we still get fried chicken-ish kind of. So
Yeah.
that might be okay.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
think the bottle's still doing well. Still has plenty of stuff, which I think is probably also like the same as the moonshine. It's probably is still true.
yeah,
End of the world
yeah.
happens. There's still bottles.
I was
Um,
going to ask you this as well. Like when you go, so obviously he sort of mentions it earlier about you put me out onto the street onto the river and then set me on fire, in a proper sort of like Viking sort of funeral. I was thinking how would you do you have any thoughts on how you'd want to go? I guess generally, or in this scenario, would you want someone to fire an arrow? So it was a bit more, it was a bit,
you
it was
start missing and start wasting arrows.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think I mean, in this scenario, I think Blaze of Glory's got to be right.
Yeah.
Although obviously it does contaminate the water, and then that's going to lead to botulism and death. So that's
Yeah.
going to be a bit tricky. In real life, I'm a bit torn actually between like the
Yeah.
cremation and like sort of I think uh, let's get deep. I think when you die,
Yeah.
like it's clear that all energy transfers, right? It never ends. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, you change into a different form of energy. That being
Yeah.
said,
Okay.
for the people that kind of that stay, I think it's a bit sad if there isn't somewhere they can visit and like sit with their memories, which is kind of what
Yeah.
a gravestone is like. And for like my grandparents, they all were cremated, and so there's nowhere that's like I can go
Yeah.
and like sit and just kind of like have memories with them, which I think is
Yeah.
a bit sad. And funnily enough, I walked through a graveyard a few weeks back with
Yeah.
my daughter, and it's the first time that she's ever been to a graveyard, and she was like, "Oh, this is
Mm.
this is spooky, isn't it? It's so quiet, and it's like just
Yeah.
off the main road and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, it is a bit spooky,
Yeah.
but
It is
it's
spooky.
quiet because people are thinking about
Yeah.
people who have died and
Yeah.
stuff." And actually, like, she kind of took it really well.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting what you say, because like there's that contemplation of, like is it just a transfer, like sort of energy or spirit or whatever you want to call it? And so then do people just think, well, you're like with me at all times because you're now whatever, you might have reincarnated into another animal or something,
yeah.
or you're in the earth. And so yeah, I don't know. Graveyards are a bit morbid, aren't they? But yeah, I definitely just so for future reference, I want to be buried with an oxygen tank, a mobile phone, and a spade to just make sure,
get
just
those
to
in
make
get
sure.
those in the coffin.
Yeah, just in case. I mean, I don't want to be that 1%. I
Oh,
mean, I've
well,
been working on my 1 inch punch, but I'm not sure it's going to get me through.
the Victorians always used to have a little bell, didn't they, with the cord down into the coffin.
Oh, that's a
But
lot
then
easier, isn't it?
they realised that some wind probably made quite a few people
Yeah,
hopeful
yeah,
and
yeah,
dig up stuff that they shouldn't have done. But yeah, I'll bear
yeah.
that in mind
Keep that in mind. Yeah,
to make sure that we have it. Um,
yeah.
and then onto the reviews. A lot of
Yes.
reviews, literally.
Yeah.
So this got 4.3, Free Jack got 4.2, which is why you should never ever listen to reviews. Um,
Or
the
always listen to reviews.
the 1-star reviews, the best one I think was As Above. I don't think they realise quite how quite how quite how
Brilliant.
reviews work and
Uh,
algorithms work. As Above, 1-star.
yeah. Yeah.
What someone else 1-star, that little girl was wonderful, but who wants to see a load of down and outers getting drunk in the swamps? I feel like they may be missed.
Wow.
They may be missed some of what
Yeah.
it was about.
Yeah,
And
just a little
then
bit.
this turned out to be a real bummer, as it was the German edition with a bad English soundtrack as second. Horrible. I could not tell from the listing on Amazon that it was the German version. Very disappointing.
Oh, dear.
So that's
Yeah, I mean,
that
yeah,
would
at
that
least
would be
that person
disappointing.
I mean, it sounds like they've actually watched it, which is
Yeah.
incredible. They've watched it, and I guess with like English subtitles. Yeah,
Well,
credit to
a
them.
bad English
Yeah,
soundtrack. Surely, like,
yeah,
yeah, maybe it was a very early DVD, but surely they just have the English soundtrack that you can choose, and it's the original soundtrack. Surely,
yeah.
that's how it works. But yeah, and then the five star one, which I thought was really good, was it's endearing, subversively beguiling. It has
Mm,
charm and charisma. And I think that's
yeah,
great. And then Roger
yeah,
Ebert, who's a very famous film
yeah,
critic, when he was writing about it, he said, "Sometimes miraculous films come into being, made by people you've never heard of, starring unknown faces, blindsiding you with creative genius. Beasts of the Southern Wild is one of the year's best films." And I just think
yeah,
that's why he's Roger Ebert and he's a very famous film critic. But
yeah,
yeah, I think that's what I love about it. That's why I love it so much. It's gone, people, I've talked about it a lot this week that I'm watching it. No one's ever heard of
yeah,
it. I've kind of said, yeah,
yeah,
you should go watch it. Like
yeah.
you won't have heard of the director, you won't have heard of the writer, you won't have heard of the stars, and it is just a really, really good film. So
Think it was a good one. And would you keep it on the list and you keep it where it is, or would it move around at all?
yeah, I think yeah, it would definitely drop much lower. I think I was trying to
Yeah.
think. I think maybe even a top 20,
Yeah.
maybe a top
Wow.
30, maybe top 20. I really enjoyed it. I think
Yeah.
when she faces the Orcs, as spoilers for in case you haven't watched it, but she faces the
Yeah.
Orcs. Her dad sees that she can face them because she has a strong heart, and
Yeah.
then they have the scene with the no crying. Honestly, if
Hmm.
you're not welling up at that scene, I was watching on a train and I was welling up.
Yeah.
If you're not welling up, you have so little empathy that then my empathy kicks in and just makes me feel sad for you because it's
Yeah.
just such a heartbreaking scene. And
Yeah.
like, and then like, obviously they sort of, yeah, they end on what is sort of a high because they try and play happy music, presumably the subtitles say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that scene is just, yeah, it's just, I think one of the most powerful scenes, in many a movie. So I would definitely
Mm.
have it, yeah,
Yeah.
way,
Wow.
way, way lower down the list.
Okay, so then when we get to the top 20, we'll see what is moved out. It's it's
Yeah.
like it's reminding me of Top of the Pops. It's like, oh, I'm moving down 4 places. It's
It's gonna be difficult to remember. Okay, so if you remember 40 shows
yeah,
ago, we were talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
this thing, and now we're gonna.
yeah. I'm gonna
I'm
write a note. Don't worry, I'll remember.
I'm not sure we're going to be that organized, especially as
Yeah,
yeah, we've got another 70 films to go, and so that will be even if we do one a week, that's going to be over a year. So
yeah. Good
awesome,
times, man.
great. Well, yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Glad that you that you've seen it. I think this is a film
Yeah,
that everyone should go out and see. And yeah, I've
yeah,
recommended it to people this week, as I say. So yeah, no, it's great, and we go on. So yeah, thanks again to Tom Evans for the theme song, and we will see you next week on Long Play Video.